Hey folks, Doc here. You'll have to mind the background noise. I got off work early, it's a gorgeous day, and I grabbed my camera, I threw it in the truck, and I headed out to a trailhead nearby that I really like walking and running my RCs at, and wouldn't you know it, they fired up a bunch of equipment like 20 yards away, and now they're making a ton of noise. And I think they're delivering materials or something. They got the forklift going on back and forth, and that absolutely figures, bear with me. Anyways, I wanted to shoot a video because of frequently asked questions. There's a few of these mud mower groups that I belong to, and I swear to you, 50 times a day, somebody will post up a picture of a lawn tractor or a garden tractor, you know, or a copy of a marketplace ad and say, is this a good mud mower? I'm here today to help you spot a good mud mower project candidate. By the time this video is done, you should be able to look at one of these machines and decide if it's a good mud mower or not without having to hope that the right people answer your questions in time before you make a purchase. So stick around, and we're going to go over a couple of various categories that we're going to look at to determine if that is a good mud mower. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to look at is the difference between a lawn tractor and a garden tractor. And that seems like it would be fairly straightforward, but maybe not necessarily. The difference basically is size, weight, and durability. A lawn tractor is going to be smaller, it's going to be lighter, and it's designed for the purpose of cutting grass. You know, sometimes you can get a little snowblower for it, or a wee little blade for it, but the long and the short of it is a garden tractor is designed to engage the ground. It's for gardening, it's for actual work, so they are heavier, a good 300 pounds or so, which is fantastic until, you know, you get it stuck or it lands on you. They have stronger frames, stronger transaxles, quite often bigger engines, quite often horizontal shaft instead of vertical shaft. Most lawn tractors are vertical shaft. And you can easily spot the difference between a lawn tractor and a garden tractor. Typically, a garden tractor will have 12-inch wheels and a lawn tractor will have 8-inch wheels. That's the actual rim diameter, by the way, not the tire diameter. So, you know, at a glance, you know, a garden tractor has the big wheels, lawn tractor has the little wheels, and you shouldn't have to dig too much further to determine which of those you're looking at. Which one of those is for you is up to you to decide. A garden tractor will typically steamroll through just about anything, but like I said, it's fantastic until you get it stuck or till it lands on you. A lawn tractor is weaker components typically, but it's lighter, it's more nimble, it's more maneuverable, it can be a little zippier, so to speak. You know, if it lands on you, it's going to hurt just a wee little bit less. Parts are typically a little bit more attainable and more affordable, and in some cases easier to work with. So that's your lawn tractor versus garden tractor delineation. That's how you tell the difference between the two. Which one is right for you, you need to decide. Next, we're going to talk about drive systems, and this is probably the most critical point when determining if something is a good project base for a mud mower or an off-roader, or it's not. In no particular order, I'll start with hydrostatic drives. Sometimes marketed as automatic, but basically what it is there's no gear selection per se. You just get moving and get stopped and get moving and get stopped, and that's all there is to it. The downside to a hydrostatic is that you can't pulley swap them. Yes, there are a few really heavy-duty garden tractor variants that you can speed up some because they've got wicked pumps on them, but the long and the short of it is typically what you're going to find you cannot speed up. The best you can do is put larger tires on. The reason for this is, like I said, you overspeed the pump input and it's going to burn out. And the other thing to keep in mind is that if you get a bunch of mud caked around the transaxle, it's going to heat up and burn out as well. Hydrostatics hate heat. To spot a hydrostatic, this is part of the spotter's guide, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the controls for the machine. There's not going to be a gear selector per se. There's probably going to be a lever either up or up on the column. There might be one down on the console. That's a little less common. Or sometimes you'll have either a pedal that rocks back and forth for forward and reverse. Or sometimes I've seen somewhere it's got two little pedals, one's forward and one's reverse. If you see any of those signs, it's a hydro, walk away from it. No good to you. Next thing we're going to get into is shaft drive. Shaft drive machines are usually something that are a little bit more desirable just in the terms of owning equipment, like Cub Cadets shaft drive, fantastic. The Hondas, the 3813, the 4518, and a few other of them are shaft drive. And the cool thing about that is you don't have to worry about stretch belts, broken belts, replacing belts, whatever the case may be. It's got an actual shaft and a clutch, a dry disc clutch, and it's rather automotive-like in nature, which sounds fantastic, but you can't swap pulleys if there's no pulleys to swap. Speeding up a shaft drive machine is an expensive proposition. You can get aftermarket gear sets for a Cub Cadet, for example, that'll give you some amazing speed, but you are going to pay for it. If you're coughing up hairballs at the thought of a $300 mower, you don't even want to know what it's going to cost to get some speed out of your Cub Cadet, so stay away from shaft drives. Alright, next on the hit list is the MTD Vari Drive system. MTD is, well, it's a parent company and they own a lot of other companies now. I've lost track of all the companies that they own, but there's a lot of them. MTD has long ago created, marketed, made widespread use of the Vari Drive system. And the Vari Drive system is a variator pulley. It's very much like a CVT or a torque converter, like you might see on certain go-karts. Snowmobiles all have them. Some ATVs have them. The transaxle in an MTD Vari Drive unit does not have gears per se. You can select between forward, neutral, and reverse. There are no individual gear clusters in the transaxle. Any speed selection that you get out of an MTD Vari Drive, you're getting from that variator pulley. And Spotter's Guide, you will notice an MTD has the following features. First off, the gear selector shift, usually with 7 speeds, but not always, does not show neutral or reverse on it. It's just 1, 2, 3, whatever. Sometimes they're not even numbered. Sometimes it's just low all the way down to high. And there will be a second shifter labeled forward, neutral, and reverse. If you see those two things in conjunction with each other, it's probably an MTD Vari Drive and you want to walk away. You don't want to use an MTD Vari Drive because they have a tendency to slip, especially when wet or dirty, and they can be absolute hell to pulley swap. When you are setting up a CVT or a variator system in the first place, belt lengths are critical, and so is the belt profile. Theoretically speaking, a standard A or B section belt won't work properly on a variator. Guys have pulley swapped them in the past with some success. I don't recommend it. It's a pain in the butt. You theoretically don't even want to consider getting one of those and then swapping in a regular geared transaxle, because now you've got to completely re-engineer the clutch and the shifter and everything else to go with it. Best avoided. The other spotting tip for an MTD Vari Drive system is if you get up underneath the machine, you're going to see that weird variator pulley in the center. It looks like a pulley with 2 sheaves. And then you've got a belt running from the engine to the variator, and then another belt running from the variator to the rear end. So if you see the 2 belts with the weird ass pulley in the middle, walk away from it. The MTD rear end is difficult to lock. Guys have done it. I know Redneck Computer Geek has. Do you want to do that? I personally don't think so. I don't think I'd waste my time on it because I don't consider it a particularly strong unit. So the MTD units, you can't go by brand name because there's millions of them. Stay away. No good. All right, so I think that pretty much brings us to the standard geared transaxle, which is your desirable option for a mud mower. And those are very common. They're obviously fairly easy to spot because there's going to be a shift select either, you know, in the console or nut buster position. Sometimes it's on one fender or another in a clutch pedal. Those shifters will feature reverse and neutral on them, so it's not separated. They're never separated on a geared transaxle. And they can have anywhere from 3 to 6 speeds. If you go by some of the other brands that market reverse as a speed, you can see up to 8 speeds. That's kind of a little bit of bogus advertising if you ask me. And I don't usually see geared transaxles with more than 6 speeds. There's said to be 7 speeds out there. Haven't seen one in person. Anyways, that's what you want. Those are the ones where you can slap on a different engine pulley, a different trans pulley. You might have to reposition your clutch a little bit and get a new belt, maybe some belt guides, but those are the ones that you can speed up. Those are the ones that you can convert to oil operation if it's not already oiled, like an MST series. Get some speed out of them, beef them up, maybe even do a dock locker on them. Hint. And have a good time. So that's what you want, is the standard geared transaxle. When you pull the shifter through, you're going to hear clunk, 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 clunk. as opposed to your MTD variator, which is just going to be kind of a smooth, or the indexing is maybe just going to come from the shift mechanism itself going click, click, click. So that is your transaxles and drive systems. In a nutshell, that's what to look for and what to avoid. All right, now we're going to talk about engines. This you could go on for weeks about. Let me just say that the right engine is a running engine. When you're just starting out and you're looking for a cheap project base, get something with an engine that either runs or can be made to run easy enough. Don't worry about whether it's a Briggs & Stratton or a Kohler or, you know, a Kawasaki or whatever the hell, you know, there's a lot of bad information out there. You know, welcome to the internet, welcome to Facebook. Guys that have no idea what they're talking about will say these engines are junk or these engines are supreme, and half of them, honest to God, 3/4 of them have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Every manufacturer has good series engines and not so good series engines. I could make a list and tell you where to go. In this particular case, it's not worth it. Get a running engine. Get an engine that can be made to run and run it. Horsepower. Let's talk about horsepower for just a second here. A lot of people get caught up in the horsepower wars. Oh, you know, I've got to have a minimum of 20 horsepower, 25 horsepower, whatever the case. No, you don't. You have to keep in mind that when these tractors were built in the first place, they were designed that the engine would serve a dual purpose. It's pushing the tractor and it's pushing the implement. So if you've got a lawn mower, a grass cutter, you know, that thing was set up in such a way that it can be spinning those blades under load, cutting grass while pushing you forward, and it's got to have enough power to do that. If we're talking about a garden tractor with ground engaging implements, it needs even more power still because it's digging in the dirt or it's pushing dirt, gravel, something like that. You can have, you know, all kinds of attachments that do all kinds of things, and they require power too. You are driving. That's all you're doing. You need way less horsepower than you think you do. Kind of combined with that is, I'd like to also make a couple of further comments. First off, several of the engine manufacturers, including Briggs & Stratton and Honda, have been caught and sued and lost over the years for false advertising when it comes to engine horsepower numbers. I could go into great detail. I'm not going to do that here today, but the long and the short of it is, you know, don't necessarily think, oh my God, this has so much more horsepower than that one, because it maybe doesn't. There are a whole bunch of engines out there where the difference between, you know, the 14 horsepower engine and the 15 horsepower engine, for example, is a sticker. I kid you not. I've been into this for years. Everything else checks out the same carburetor, same jetting, same porting, same governor speed, same sticker, just a sticker. The last thing regarding horsepower is that many of these machines have been made over the last, you know, 10 or 15 or 20 years with more and more and more and more horsepower advertised. And the reason for that is keeping up with the Joneses. So Mr. Brown down the road has an 18 horsepower garden tractor, and that's just the cat's meow, and you've been looking at this thing for quite a while and staring into your wallet going, I got to get something like his. And the manufacturers are kind of paying attention, listening, and they know that you're going to get, you know what, he's got 18 horsepower. I want to find something and buy something. It's got 20 horsepower because it's better, it's stronger, it's cooler. So you're going to buy that 20 horsepower machine. Your next door neighbor is going to look at your 20 horsepower machine and go, well, damn him. You know, he's already got a nicer car. I can't let this slide, so I'm going to go out and buy a 22 horsepower machine. And they get you like that. Don't get caught up in the keeping up with the Joneses with the engine horsepower. If you've got like 8 horsepower and above, you're going to do fine. I promise you. All right, so the last thing that I want to talk about is price. A lot of guys will post up a picture or marketplace post and, you know, either go through the, is this a good mud mower? Or the other, you know, most common question that we see, is that a good price? Is $100 a good price for this machine? And really the answer is it a good price to you? See, here's the thing, values are regional. What might be, you know, a good deal for me is a total ripoff in your neck of the woods. I might be perfectly happy to spend $300 on that particular machine over there, and you'd look at it and go, oh hell no, it's just not worth that much. And your neck of the woods and my neck of the woods don't even have to be that far apart to see that. I've seen that going town to town. This town is just way outrageous with pricing with stuff like this, and this town is cool. Values are regional. If it's worth X amount of dollars to you, if you feel comfortable spending that much money to get a good project base, and remember, go back to what I said earlier about what's a good project base, then it's a good deal. I've always said in the buying, selling, and trading world that if the buyer and the seller, are reasonably happy with the outcome, it was a good deal. So if you're comfortable spending that amount of money, then it was a good deal. Free. Free is fantastic. Not always. It's come to my attention that there's a bit of a scam going on lately. I just recently watched a Redneck Computer Geek video, and apparently in some jurisdictions, trying to get rid of an old lawn tractor is a costly pain in the butt. Apparently you've got to break them down and bring this to this recycling center and this to that and here to there. Some of it's going to cost you money. You're going to have to pay to get rid of that. There's the fuel for driving around and delivering this stuff, and it's a pain in the butt. Apparently what a lot of these guys will do, a lot of tractor flippers will do, is they'll pick up enough tractors, go through all the parts on them, build good machines out of all the best parts, and then what they'll do is they will take all the bad, crappy parts, half bolt them together with some bubble gum and duct tape, shove them to the side of the road and put a free sign on it. And they are preying on people's ignorance, people getting excited and going, oh hey, it's free, it's got to be fantastic, whatever it needs I can do, and they throw it in the truck and drive away. So what you've just done is you've paid for his disposal. Really, that's all it is. What would have been a pain for this guy to get rid of, because it's absolute junk, you just happily took away on your own dime. And that ain't right, but it's going on. For a little bit more information, a little bit better explanation, you can check out Redneck Computer Geek's channel. It's a fairly recent video, last week or two. And he can give you the full scoop on that. But basically what I'm saying here is if you happen to be driving along and you see a tractor at the side of the road with a sign on that says free, please take it away, stop and look at it. I mean, actually look at it. Before you get all excited, look at it. Go over some of the things that I said earlier and decide if this is going to meet your criteria. And if it meets your criteria, that's fantastic. Now take a second look at it and see if it really does look like it's a whole pile of junk bolted together. If there's parts missing, Buddy didn't have all the parts to put together, so he put together what parts he could. If there's bolts loose or missing all over the place, that could be a hint. If there's no pull start on the engine, just make sure the thing's in neutral and grab the fan cover on the engine, cooling fan cover, and just give it a couple of turns with your hands. If you can get that through a few revolutions without it binding up or hitting something or going clang, then that means the engine is free. Free, not inexpensive, free as in not seized up. On the other hand, if it spins like the dickens, it's probably very, very broken, and you want to avoid that. Look underneath it. Is there a whole pile of oil? Is there a window in the engine where you shouldn't have a room with a view? Give the thing a little bit of a push. Does it feel like it's going to free roll? Or does it feel like something's bound up in there? And just generally check it out and see if you're actually getting a deal with free, because free is not always a deal. Sometimes you're actually better off saving up a little bit longer and buying something that is something that you can work with. Alright, so hopefully having watched this video, you can now walk into a situation where you see a marketplace ad or you see something on the side of the road with a for sale sign on it, and be informed and be able to make up your own mind. Is this a good mud mower? So what do? You go over it, the condition it's in, whether it's a geared transaxle or a hydrostat or a shaft drive, whether the engine looks like it's halfway intact, all of those things, and you will be able to decide for yourself whether it is a good mud mower project base. I certainly hope I've helped you. I thank you for watching Sprocket's Garage on YouTube, and until next time, take care of yourself. There's dog shit right here.